Me here today. I thought, considering next week we will be welcoming the official start to summer, it would be an appropriate time to go through this presentation. You may have seen it before. I've tweaked and modified it over the years because you learn things. Experience is, as they say, the best teacher. And so from you taking this information and applying it to your business and learning a lot of really cool things, I've been able to modify this. So hopefully, whether you've seen this before, it's your first time, you're able to take some notes, but more importantly, you're able to take a break this summer. That's really the whole idea of this presentation is I want to show you how you can either as a one-off or something more systematic and routine, take a consistent break from your business without breaking your business. Because I know that's a big fear for many of us, is that as soon as we leave our business, everything's going to crash underneath us. And we don't certainly want that. And we don't want the stress while we're away. So that's what today's presentation is all about. So let's talk a little bit about why this matters. And maybe this is obvious to some, but I think it's worth really putting a flag in the ground and say, above and beyond the fact that, frankly, you deserve a break. You work your butt off each and every day for your clients. There's a number of other reasons why it really matters being able to take a break from your biz. And I love this Michael Gerber quote. I know he's kind of the OG. I don't know if anyone read the E-Myth out there, E-Myth Revisited. That's one of those like classic reads. If you haven't read it, highly recommend it. He talks about Sarah, the pie maker, and how she doesn't own a business. In fact, the business owns her. She kind of owns a job. And so this idea that your business is something that should be there to serve your life and not the other way around is really, I'll be honest with you, that is sort of a rallying cry for me in my coaching career. And that's what a lot of the energy I put into it is helping you do that. And I'm going to tell you in a little bit about this workshop I'm hosting next week that I'd love to see you at, but more on that later. So the reality is you're not lazy for needing rest. In fact, you're human, and without breaks, you're risking a lot. You're risking, mental clarity. I don't know about you, but it seems like every minute there's a new form, there's a new clause, there's a new change, there's a new broker pay. Oh man. And so without having that sharp, crisp mental clarity, you run the risk of making mistakes. And let's be honest, mistakes in this business can be very costly. Of course, it can't be understated. Your physical health and well-being, as well as your business performance, is directly correlated to how rested you are. It's not oftentimes just a matter of getting sleep. It's getting quality sleep or getting quality break. And speaking of break, I don't think any of us want to have a break in our relationships. And I don't know about you, but I have been guilty on many occasions, 5 days turning into 7 days that I work this week. And I'm on the couch trying to, spend some time with my wife, and she looks over and I'm on my phone answering messages and things like that. That's the kind of stuff that puts real strain on our relationships. And we want to avoid that. And one of my examples when I say like, hey, you're not lazy for taking a break is the professional athlete, you may know, his name's LeBron James. I remember reading an article about 6 years ago that said LeBron James was currently investing over $1 million a year into rest and recovery. Now, I don't know how much you know about LeBron James, but he is now 40 years old. He's over 25 years in the league. And most people who make it to the 25-year mark in the NBA are bench warmers at best. They're kind of like coaches that happen to wear a uniform. Not LeBron. He's a guy that's on the floor in the starting lineup and is still widely considered one of the top 10, maybe 20 players in the league. And part of that is his absolute dedication to taking rest and recovery. So if someone at the absolute pinnacle of their profession can take a break and prioritize it, there's no reason why we can't either. Now, let's talk a little bit now about the hidden costs of hustle. I don't know about you, but burnout is a real thing. I like to jokingly say I have a PhD in burnout because I've done it so many times that it's one of those things that I'm constantly having to deal with. Now, procrastination, this is a funny one. I had this happen to me last week. Have you ever had a situation where maybe you did have some time on the calendar and you're sitting at the office and you can see that cursor blink, that cursor blink on the screen because you're like trying to write an email? And you know that when you're well rested, this email, you should be able to bang it out in, I don't know, 5 minutes or less, but you're sitting there and it's taking you 20 minutes. That is a real telltale sign that burnout has taken over in your business. This loss of focus, the undermine of our health and relationships, we all know that what the hidden costs are. Now, Let's talk a little bit about what this could look like. So in my coaching practice, if I was to say like the off the shelf, here's what this looks like. This is sort of the RRI doctrine of taking time off, is what we're trying to work towards is some version of this. Now, don't worry if you're looking at what's on the screen right now and you're like, I'm nowhere near that. Don't sweat it. Most of us aren't. But the idea here is we want to be able to work towards getting one consistent day off a week. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm going to show you how to do it here in a second. Ideally, we want to try to have one full weekend, where we're off and we're not necessarily out doing appointments. And then, ideally in a quarter, we want to try to get one fully disconnected break. And then lastly, once or twice a year, we want to take an extended amount of time off. And I don't know if you caught me talking on social about my recent experience, but I, for the first time in my career, took 2 full weeks off. This was back in late April, early May this year. Took 2 full weeks off, and stayed in the same spot. So the little asterisk of me saying I've never done it before is I've traveled to Thailand and Costa Rica for 3 weeks, but it was backpacking. It was exhilarating. It was adventurous. It was not restful, right? And I had heard this for a very long time from my friends that are better at taking time off, that you really start to relax around week 2. And I can tell you, as a first time 2-week, vacationer in one spot, yeah, they're not lying. I kind of wish that wasn't true. I wish that, I could relax in day 1 or week 1. But the reality is that rest and recovery often comes around that second week, somewhere in that 7 to 10 day window. And so this framework is very simple. 1 day a week, 1 weekend a month, 1 long weekend a quarter, 2 weeks a year. And you'll notice if you're reading the notes on there, it also talks a little bit about how your day off a week, you're still reachable. Like, if a client texts you, you can still respond to them, but you're maybe not putting on your real estate pants that day. Hopefully you're putting on some pants, but not your real estate ones. Same idea with that weekend a month. Like, you are reachable, but maybe you're not doing appointments. Whereas that long weekend and those 2-week exchanges, that is where you want to have full disconnection from your business. And again, we're going to talk a little bit how to do that. Let's talk about finding coverage. This is often the first limiting factor that prevents people from being able to take a break, either as a one-off or something consistent. And so over the years, helping people try to rest and recuperate in their business, this is what we found the best practices to be. The first is someone that has ideally a similar personality and sales volume to you. So when I say personality, you may be familiar with the Richard Robbins colors. There's gold, blue, orange, and green, or maybe you're familiar with DISC or Myers-Briggs or something of that nature. Ideally, we want to find someone that has a similar personality to you. Now, what's interesting about this is oftentimes when we are hanging out with our friends, they're often different. They say opposites attract, right? I know my wife and I on these personality assessments are polar opposites. So, I might not necessarily be the best person to cover for her, just like she may not necessarily be the best person to cover for me, even though we're very compatible in our partnership. They may not be the best person to cover for me, because our clients expect a level of consistency in their service, even when we do go away. So ideally, you want to find someone who maps similarly to your personality and also sales volume. If you are selling consistently 15 homes a year, you probably want to find somebody who's within about 10 to 20% the same level of production as you. You don't want to be the 50 home seller, or 50 deal home, 50. Sorry, I'm recovering from the man cold here. I'm on day 8 now. The 50-year sale person covering for the 15 deal a year person. That doesn't really map well. The rhythms and routines aren't quite there. I also want to apologize in advance to our rookies when I say the next point here, but ideally you want to have someone who's 2 years in the business or more covering it. Now, that's not to say that you can't have someone who's 6 months in. It absolutely can be. These are more guidelines than they are rules. But what we have found time and time again is it's helpful to have someone with a little bit more pedigree, a little more experience under their belt covering for you. Obviously, we want to talk about operational confidence. So this is something where we're trying to look for someone who's got the I dotting and T crossing, not just your closest friend in the office. I'm a big fan of trialing them out first. And one of the biggest mistakes that people make in this is they often think it has to be a reciprocal relationship. That is not the case. So as an example, if we use Justice, Graham, and I as an example, maybe Justice is a great match for Graham to cover for Graham, and Graham may be a great match for me, and I might be a great match for Justice. It doesn't mean that it has to be reciprocal. So there's often a lot of social pressure that comes into this, where it's like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and we'll talk about compensation here in a second. But just be aware that that doesn't have to be the case. You can have someone who is your consistent coverage person, and you don't necessarily need to cover for them, but you do need to make sure that they're compensated. Now, I want to give you an example of a bit of a case study here. This fictitious realtor is named Alex, and I'm going to read you a little bit of Alex's background. So let's see if we can get to the part here where one of the challenges for Alex is that she's a personal realtor with a knack for making clients feel valued. Over 5 years in the industry, she's built a reputation for being approachable and creative in selling around 20 homes a year. So we've kind of got a bit of the personality piece. We've got a bit of the production. We understand sort of some of her values. And so when we look at this, and this example, by the way, will be available to you in a workbook. I've already posted the full PDF workbook on the Insider, so it's there for you to grab right now. But if you look at this, there's 3 different agents that Alex is considering. There's Jamie, who's warm and approachable, but less confident in handling complex transactions. There's Taylor, calm, detail-oriented, relatable. Some of the challenges: prefer structure, which could differ from Alex's more flexible approach. And then there's Morgan, highly experienced and efficient, but a more transactional approach when a heavy workload. And if you look on the screen, I just realized they're not on the slides there. Beg your pardon. If you look on the screen here, you're going to see a bit of a matrix and a bit of an assessment. And this is an exercise I would seriously encourage you to do is look at a few of the different colleagues in the office. Take a look at how many years have they been in the business. Take a look at what you feel their personality is. Look at what their volume is. And this table here will help you get a little bit more clarity on who might be the best fit. So once you've decided you found someone, the next option here is compensation. And this is where things can get a little bit tricky, a little uncomfortable, right? But what we have found is there's essentially 3 types of compensation that we see out there. And of course, there's a hybrid model as well. And each of these are detailed in the PDF guide that's on the Insider. But I'll just kind of blitz over these, give you a high level idea of this. So the first one is we call it the, I scratch your back, you scratch my back method. I guess we can't say that anymore after COVID. So, but it's the you cover me, I cover you exchange. This is where there's no money involved. There's no referral fees. This is a very simple, you go away for 2 days, I go away for 2 days. Now, the pros of this are, of course, you have the benefit of feeling like when you're away, it's not, and I hear this all the time, costing you money when a deal happens. But the downside of this is it does sort of, say that you kind of have to have a reciprocal relationship with those people. So this is a good starting point. But again, if you like the advice of that you don't have to reciprocate for the person, then that would sort of make this a no-fly zone for you. Now, some of the disadvantages of this plan as well are the fact that you may be busier or have a busier weekend, or let's say the 10 days you take off in 2025 just happen to be more active than the other. It can start to breed a little bit of resentment with the person who's covering for you, which then leads us into the second option. This is pay for performance. And so this is essentially, while I'm away, if you successfully close a deal for me, whether it's on my listing or on my buyer, I will pay you X. Now, this is a very clean and tidy plan because obviously the person who's covering for you, they're excited by the notion of being able to generate additional revenue by working your book of business while you're away on vacation. The challenge is, and I would assume that this wouldn't be the case for anybody watching this conversation right now, but it can on occasion, cause people to show up a little bit more assertively or aggressively when speaking with your clients, because remember, the only time they get compensated is if a deal successfully closes, which can create a little bit of tension. So it's one of those things to be aware of. Now, on the third option, this is how we sort of counteract that assertiveness that can show up on the pay for performance model, which is a per diem, daily, or hourly rate. Now, this you'll typically see with newer agents who are covering, but it's not uncommon out there for people to be paid a per hour or a per day or a per showing rate. Now, I won't pretend to be a managing broker for a second, but I will mention that I understand that there's some complexities here around personal real estate corporations. Justice and Tom can walk you through the fine points of that. But you want to be careful that if you're writing a check to a realtor, that you're following the correct course of action. But this is a fairly common practice we see out there. The benefit is to you as the vacationing agent, you have a very good idea of what it's going to cost you to be away, because maybe you have a daily rate for someone to babysit your phone, your inbox, your texts. The disadvantage of this plan is you're probably not going to attract as many people willing to cover, because this idea of $50 a day or $100 a day doesn't amount to a lot, so people are less inclined to do it. And that's where the fourth model is where I think the sweet spot is, and that is the hybrid model, where you have a bit of a flat fee. So hey, if I cover you for 10 days and nothing happens, I got some beer money for the weekend out of it. But if a deal does happen, then there you go. We've got a little bit more financial upside on that. So these are more covered in more detail within the guide, which then leads us to the last part. And Justice made me put this in here. I didn't want to, because I'm like a handshake deal guy. No, I'm just kidding. Put it in writing, team. Don't just wing it. Use a coverage agreement. Here are some ideas of things that I would recommend that go into that agreement. Everything from the dates of coverage, your clients list, method of compensation, just like we covered, access to your email, CRM, text, like how is that going to be handled? Of course, always, chat with Haley, chat with Tom about, your agency implications of taking over someone's CRM, because there are things we need to be mindful of. And then what happens to the business with clients that maybe your coverage person hits it off with, like talk about these things in advance, because it can happen, and what your communication expectations are. Now, for bonus points or brownie points, I don't know which one it is, I would also recommend whatever agreement you do come to, make sure you share it with the managing broker team, so they have it as a reference. Now, if you're like, that's a lot of info, where do we have it? We actually have a vacation coverage agreement sample in the PDF guide. So, in conclusion, team, here's my challenge for you. If you haven't done so already, I would encourage you to book a break before the end of the summer. And if you're new to taking time away from your business, I would strongly encourage you to start small. Like pick an evening. Honestly, pick an evening to just step away from your business. But stepping away from your business doesn't also have to mean stepping away from service to your clients, right? And that's where I'm a big believer that a little bit of pre-work here can really help not just you, but also the service levels to your clients. Because not only are they going to be covered while you're away, when you come back, they're going to get a better version of you. And let's be honest, they deserve that, don't they? Right? So choose a date. I want you to choose a coverage partner, use the agreement template we have here. And then when it's done, don't expect perfection. We're looking for progress here, not perfection. Debrief after. What worked well? What didn't? What do we want to start, stop, continue? All of these reflection questions that help us learn from our experience. So as I mentioned, team, there is the Take a Break resource guide. It has been put on the Insider. I'd highly recommend that you download it, take a look at it. If you want to, a little bit more accountability, I'd love to know, when are you taking a break? Like these questions here, send me an email. Tell me, hey, I'm going away on this. Here are the people I'm thinking about. I'm going to use this compensation plan. I'd love to hear what you're planning on doing, because the reality is I'll leave you, team, with the one thing that, well, I won't say the one thing, because, if Charlie hears this, he'll think he only learned one thing from me. But there's one thing Charlie said to me early in my career that is really been one of those sort of North Stars I've followed. And that is, you only get so many summers in a lifetime, right? You only get so many summers in a lifetime. And so I think it's really important that especially in July and August on Vancouver Island, we make the most of it, and we can make the most of it without it having to cost us or the service levels to our client. So all that to say, team, that's my presentation for today. I got two little reminders to let you know about. So next Wednesday at 10:30 a.m., I am hosting the How to Build a Lifestyle-Based Business. So again, this fits sort of hand in glove with what we're going to be talking about. We're going to start things off with talking about what would you do with an extra 10 hours a week if you got it? while still growing your business. We're going to do a little bit of reflection and look at, what areas of your life are you thriving in, and which ones are you just surviving in. Then we're going to start talking a little bit about how to create a financial goal that's honestly more than just deals and dollars. It's based on the things that you that actually are important to you and that fulfill you. And then lastly, we're going to finish out the presentation by doing one of my favorite exercises of all time, which is the time, money, energy analysis, where I'm going to help you build a tool that is going to show you how to move closer to building a lifestyle-based business. And if you haven't heard me say this before, I'll just say it right now. My definition of a lifestyle-based business is a business that supports your ideal life, not subtract from it. All right. Last reminder, you'll see this coming out later this week, but I just launched our summer book club, 5 Types of Wealth by Sahil Bloom. This is one of the best books I've read in a number of years. Spoiler alert, financial is only one of the 5 types of wealth. So this is if you want to talk about holistic success, winning in life, not just financially, but, mentally, physically, socially, and in terms of what you spend your time doing, sign up for the book club, whether you're an avid reader, an audio booker, a Coles Notes person, whatever. You have all summer to work through the book. Our meetup is on September 3rd, Wednesday, September 3rd. So, Justice, thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. Excellent work. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know about you guys, but I always find every year in June, when June hits, I start counting how many summer weekends do I have. We start with 12. We're down to 10.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that statement is very poignant to me. How many summers do you get? How many weekends every summer do you get? Because I always think of September, kids are going back to school. We're back into the grind. There's only so many weekends.
Yeah.
And, hey, Braden, how much of a holiday does it end up being if you are docu-signing, talking to your clients, trying to arrange showings from the poolside?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the textbook definition of a realtor vacation is answering emails in a destination warmer than your hometown. Isn't that kind of how vacations work? And I just want to
managing brokers, I can tell you do a shit job when you're trying to do that. So why not be good to your clients and be good to yourself?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I find I give my best advice when I've had 7 margaritas. So, and I just want to respond to Shane's comment in here about the LeBron James comment. And I would throw it to you, Shane, because he says, why doesn't he have millions? And I'd say, yes, but is that of the chicken or the egg? Right. He has millions to invest. I suspect it wasn't millions from his high school year, but I think it's prioritizing rest and recovery. Success leaves clues. So,
yeah.
Awesome.
They've been talking a lot about that during the NHL playoffs here as well, how dedicated some of the players are to recuperation. If they're going to get 3 days, they're not partying 2 out of 3 nights.
It's not like it used to be.
Yeah, they're paying a lot of money for the right plans to really get that time off.
Yeah.
And let's face it, you guys run 24/7 most of the year. So give yourself a break.
All right, team. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And congratulations on the name change. The feedback I've been hearing south of the Malahat has been like overwhelmingly positive. So way to go. Love it.
Thank you for your time, Braden.
Thank you.
All right. Good start. Good start to the morning. Did we like that? Is that good? We get some takeaways from that? Braden's always very insightful and can provide a lot of great resources to make your life and